All right, so today we're going to dive deep into Naval Ravikant's How to Get Rich framework. We're pulling specifically from that YouTube video we did with Nivi Babak. And, right off the bat, it's important to say this isn't about those get-rich-quick schemes or anything like that. We're talking about building lasting wealth and really the mindset and the strategies that go behind it.
Yeah, and I think one of the first things that really stood out to me was how he separates, wealth, money, and status. Those three things that people often kind of mix up.
Oh, yeah, he really hammers that home, doesn't he? So just so everyone listening is on the same page, wealth, according to Ravikant, is about those assets that are working for you, generating income.
Yeah.
Even while you're sleeping.
Exactly. It's not about you working for money. It's about making your money work for you. And he's really clear that money itself is just a tool, like a means of exchange. And then there's status, which he sees as this whole, social hierarchy game.
Yeah, it can be a trap, right? He even mentions, some journalists who criticize the wealthy, and he kind of suggests they might be playing that status game themselves, aiming for those, social points,
Probably trying to position themselves as representatives of the people or something. The key takeaway there is don't get caught up in those status traps. They can really distract you from building that genuine long-term wealth.
And that leads perfectly into his breakdown of luck. He talks about 4 kinds of luck: blind, hustle, preparation, and unique character luck.
And he makes it clear that, blind luck, pure chance, there's not much you can do about that. But the other 3, those you can actually cultivate.
So let's break those down a bit more for our listener. Hustle luck, it seems, is all about just putting yourself out there, taking action, opening yourself up to more opportunities.
Yeah, the more you hustle, the luckier you get, right? And then there's preparation luck, which is about being ready when those opportunities do show up, having the skills and the knowledge to actually capitalize on them.
So it's not just about being in the right place at the right time, but also having the right tools to make the most of that moment.
Precisely. And then there's unique character luck. Now, this is where things get kind of interesting.
He talks about being extreme, going against the grain, basically embracing what makes you different. He even quotes Sam Altman, who said, "Extreme people get extreme results," and Jeffrey Pfeffer, who added, "You can't be normal and expect abnormal returns."
Right, but he's not saying be reckless or anything. He balances it out by saying, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
So for everyone listening, it's about being strategic, understanding that, unconventional thinking might be necessary, but not being foolish in the process.
Yeah, finding that balance is key. And I think what's really empowering about his perspective is that you can actually influence the kinds of luck that lead to wealth. Reduce your dependence on just pure chance.
Absolutely. Another big point he makes is this distinction between renting your time and owning equity. He's pretty adamant that, trading your time for money, it keeps you limited. Replaceable,
It's like you're stuck on that hamster wheel. True wealth, he argues, comes from owning a piece of something, whether that's stock options, starting a business, or investments.
Yeah, it's about that shift from being a worker to an owner, having a stake in something that can really grow. He even highlights professions that have what he calls disconnected inputs and outputs, where creativity and leverage are key.
Think of his example, you've got a software engineer creating something like Bitcoin, which generates huge value, versus, an engineer spending a year working on a product that ultimately fails.
Really shows the power of leverage and how technology can really amplify your efforts, right? Which brings us to his point about the internet. He sees it as a total game changer, so especially for career possibilities.
Well, the internet connects everyone, right? So it allows people with those niche interests to find their audience and potentially build businesses around what they truly love.
Yeah, it's wild to see how people are building careers outside of those traditional 9-to-5 jobs. YouTubers, podcasters, esports players, the list goes on and on.
He even mentions, Joe Rogan, who reportedly earns $100 million a year from his podcast. And then you've got PewDiePie, a YouTuber who has a larger audience than major cable news networks.
So the question for anyone listening is, what's your unique obsession? The internet might hold the key to turning it into something both fulfilling and profitable. But, in such a crowded space, how do you stand out? That's where Ravikant's idea of escaping competition through authenticity comes in.
He's got this great quote: "Escape competition through authenticity. Instead of copying, be yourself. That uniqueness becomes your competitive advantage."
It's about figuring out what makes you different and really leaning into those aspects, not trying to fit into a mold that doesn't suit you.
And this ties into his emphasis on playing the long game, which I think is crucial.
He talks about choosing industries with long-term players, where trust and reputation really matter. He uses Silicon Valley as an example, where those long-term relationships are everything.
Yeah, and don't forget about compounding, which applies to relationships, finances, even knowledge. Those small, consistent efforts over time can lead to incredible results.
He's got a great quote to illustrate that. In a long-term game, it seems like everybody is making each other rich. In a short-term game, it seems like everybody is making themselves rich.
Powerful stuff, right?
Absolutely. So for everyone listening, think about the people you surround yourself with. Are they playing for the long haul, or are they just looking for that quick win? And speaking of the people you surround yourself with, Ravikant gets pretty specific about choosing your team. He says there are 3 traits that are non-negotiable.
Intelligence, energy, and integrity. But he clarifies that intelligence should be specific to the field you're working in.
So it's not just about being generally smart, but being an expert in the area that matters for your goals, right?
Exactly. And he also stresses the importance of energy, working with people who are passionate, intrinsically motivated by the work itself.
And maybe most importantly, integrity. He says you can judge that by actions, not words. How people treat others, especially those low-stakes situations, it reveals a lot about their character.
So much truth to that. So for everyone listening, take a look at your network. Do the people around you embody these qualities? Are you attracting the right kind of people for your journey?
Now, one of the things that really stood out to me was Ravikant's concept of specific knowledge.
It's that knowledge you can't just be trained for. It's uniquely valuable, often developed through passion and curiosity, not just formal education.
He suggests that you look at your own life. What comes naturally to you, what feels like play to you, but might be work for others.
He uses this great example. His mother recognized his business mind, even when he thought he wanted to be a scientist.
That's awesome. So for our listener, where do you excel without even trying? And that's where his emphasis on continuous learning comes in. He's such a strong advocate for reading, believing it's foundational for acquiring knowledge and understanding the world.
Oh, he has that great line. Read what you love until you love to read.
So,
It's about finding those subjects that truly spark your curiosity and just diving deep.
and he doesn't just encourage seeking information. He encourages seeking understanding, focusing on those foundational books, the original works in each field.
It's about building that steel frame of knowledge, not just memorizing facts, right? And as he says, the means of learning are abundant. It's the desire to learn that's scarce.
So true. So the question is, are you passively consuming information? Or are you actively pursuing knowledge and understanding?
Great question. And Ravikant also talks about the importance of accountability, taking ownership, even if it means risking failure, because it builds credibility.
He uses the example of a founder putting their name on a product, becoming a brand.
Right. It's about putting yourself out there, being willing to own the outcomes, both good and bad.
It's a bold move,
Yeah.
but it can bring big rewards. And then, of course, there's leverage, which he sees as this force multiplier for your judgment.
Basically, it's about tools and systems that amplify your efforts, help you achieve greater results. He talks about 2 types, permissioned and permissionless.
Permission leverage is earned through trust, reputation, taking risks. It's about getting access to other people's resources.
And then permissionless leverage is about developing your own skills, like learning to code or becoming a really skilled communicator.
It's interesting. He points out that this podcast itself is a form of leverage, right? It's him sharing his ideas with a wider audience.
It's a brilliant example, really.
So for anyone listening, think about this.
Yeah.
What forms of leverage are available to you? And are you using them effectively?
Really important questions to consider. And then finally, we get to judgment, which, Ravikant considers the most valuable skill in an age of leverage.
He describes it as knowing the long-term consequences of your actions, something that comes with experience, with learning from mistakes, understanding how the world really works.
It's so interesting how he brings up Warren Buffett as the epitome of good judgment. His decisions over decades have consistently generated remarkable returns.
And to make better decisions, he suggests reducing emotional reactivity, clearer thinking, better outcomes. So for our listener, the question is, how do you work on cultivating that judgment? Are you actively seeking feedback, learning from your experiences?
It's an ongoing process for sure. And, Ravikant also gets really practical. He offers advice on valuing your time, encourages people to set a high personal hourly rate and protect their time fiercely.
He cautions against death by 1,000 cuts, those meetings, the distractions, all those low-value tasks that can eat up your day, prevent you from focusing on what truly matters. He even has this great line, "You should be too busy to do coffee while still keeping an uncluttered calendar."
Such a great point, right. And what I find insightful is how he connects this back to leverage. If your time is your most valuable asset, are you using it in a way that maximizes your impact?
That leads us to his final point. Productize yourself. He sees this as like the ultimate path to building wealth. It's about combining your unique skills and leveraging them for maximum effect.
He actually uses this podcast as an example. It's him productizing himself, leveraging his knowledge and communication skills to reach a broader audience.
So for everyone listening, what are you uniquely good at? How can you package and scale those abilities? This framework really pushes you to think about wealth creation in a whole new way.
It's not just about hard work or even luck. It's about a specific mindset, developing those skills, and making choices that align with your long-term goals. But there's actually more to unpack here. Ravikant shared some additional insights in the video that weren't in his original How to Get Rich tweet storm.
Oh, like what?
Well, one thing that really caught my ear was his advice to avoid people who got rich quickly. He feels like they often just share their, winning lottery ticket numbers, which, may not apply to others.
Right. It's like trying to copy someone else's success without understanding the underlying principles or even the unique circumstances that led to their specific outcome.
Exactly. He stresses the importance of developing your own internal model for making decisions, rather than just blindly following advice.
You got to filter information through your own lens, considering your unique context, right?
Absolutely. And this kind of connects to his point about ignoring critics who lack skin in the game. He calls out some business journalists and economists who offer opinions without practical experience.
Well, he has some strong words for them. He suggests these professional critics tend to focus on, negativity, tearing others down, rather than providing constructive insights.
Yeah, he doesn't hold back, so it's a good reminder to be careful about whose advice you trust. He also touches on the principal-agent problem, which basically describes those potential conflicts of interest between an owner, the principal, and an employee, the agent.
He uses that classic quote, "If you want it done, then go. If not, then send." Often attributed to either Julius Caesar or Napoleon, right?
Right. It's a humorous way to illustrate the challenges of delegation and recognizing that someone else might not have the same level of commitment or incentive as the owner.
Aligning those incentives is crucial. He also cautions against measuring inputs instead of outputs, a common mistake in so many organizations. He encourages working in a way that makes your outputs visible, measurable, impactful.
This is especially important in a knowledge-based economy, right? Where the value created isn't directly tied to the number of hours worked.
Absolutely. And then Ravikant dives into risk management, even bringing up the Kelly criterion, that formula gamblers use to determine bet sizes and avoid going broke.
Yeah, it's all about not putting all your eggs in one basket, spreading your risk across multiple opportunities.
He also highlights the difference between statistical averages and individual outcomes. Uses Russian roulette as an example to show the danger of misinterpreting risk. What's statistically safe for a group can be disastrous for an individual.
It's a sobering thought for sure. He then mentions price discrimination, basically charging different prices for the same product based on the customer's willingness to pay. Think business class seats on airlines.
So it's a strategy to maximize revenue. But for our listener who might be an entrepreneur, understanding how this works is crucial for their business model.
Exactly. And he also mentions net present value, NPV, a concept used for evaluating investments. It's about discounting future cash flows back to their present value, considering things like risk and the time value of money.
He cautions against overvaluing things like stock options in a startup, reminding us that, a dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow.
Always good to keep that in mind. And then it was really cool to hear Ravikant share some personal anecdotes about his entrepreneurial journey, starting with, a catering job in high school that sparked his interest in creating wealth.
Oh, tell me about that.
Well, he talks about how he had to, serve his classmates at a party, an experience he found embarrassing at the time, but ultimately motivating.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Even those, negative experiences can fuel our desire to achieve something more.
Absolutely. And he also talks about his early jobs in college, including washing dishes and eventually, landing a teaching assistant role, even though he wasn't actually qualified.
It shows real resourcefulness.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to create your own opportunities, right?
Exactly. He really underscores the value of mentorship, finding those people who are willing to share their knowledge. to help you grow.
Finding those mentors who believe in you.
Exactly. And he encourages seeking out those challenges, those opportunities to learn, even in a traditional job. Finding those areas with steep learning curves, volunteering for new responsibilities, constantly pushing your boundaries.
It's about adopting that growth mindset.
Yeah.
Right? Continuously seeking ways to add value.
Absolutely. And he even gives advice for those working in environments where it's tough to showcase their outputs or take on more responsibility.
What does he suggest?
Well, he says to partner with what he calls rational optimists, those who believe in your potential and are willing to support your efforts.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
And finding mentors outside your direct reporting structure who can offer guidance and potentially open doors.
Exactly. He also has some encouraging words for those, who are stuck in a job but dreaming of entrepreneurship. He reminds them that so many successful entrepreneurs started in those traditional roles, gaining experience, building their skills before going out on their own.
So it's about viewing those jobs as apprenticeships, opportunities to learn and build your network.
Precisely. It's about having that long-term perspective and investing the time to build a solid foundation.
And he also touches on the importance of ethics, believing that ethical behavior is a selfish imperative. Honesty, integrity, they attract those long-term players. They build trust, which is essential for sustainable success.
Exactly. He argues that ethical behavior actually leads to a clearer mind, a better reputation, a more fulfilling career.
It's not just about doing the right thing, but also doing the smart thing.
Absolutely. And of course, he revisits managing your calendar and protecting your time. He's a huge advocate for, decluttering your schedule, saying no to unnecessary meetings, focusing on that deep work over those shallow tasks.
It's about maximizing your impact.
Exactly. And he believes that true authenticity can help you, escape competition altogether. By focusing on your unique strengths and passions, you can create something so different that you become a category of one.
He uses examples like Oprah, Joe Rogan, Elon Musk. Individuals who built successful careers by being authentic to themselves.
It's a powerful reminder that your individuality is your greatest asset. Embracing what makes you different can lead to those extraordinary results.
So the question is, how do you find that unique path?
Well, Ravikant cautions against chasing trends, believing that following the crowd rarely leads to, real wealth creation. He urges listeners to think independently, trust their instincts, and pursue their own path, even if it's unpopular or misunderstood.
Forge your own way.
Exactly. And he believes that the tech industry is a prime place to gain that specific knowledge. Technology's always evolving, pushing boundaries, creating new opportunities for those who are willing to learn and adapt.
It's a constantly changing landscape.
Exactly. So he encourages those with intellectual curiosity to explore the world of technology. It offers a unique path to valuable skills and knowledge that's in high demand.
Makes sense.
He acknowledges that the sheer volume of information available today can be overwhelming. But he emphasizes that the key is to be selective, focusing on those foundational principles, developing a deep understanding of core concepts.
Quality over quantity.
Precisely. He encourages people to cultivate a love of reading, seek out mentors, and, prioritize that quality over quantity when it comes to learning.
Learning is an ongoing journey.
It is. And pursuing knowledge is rewarding in itself.
I love how Ravikant views failure. He sees it as an inevitable part of the process and embraces it as a learning opportunity, a chance for growth and development.
Yeah, he urges people to experiment, take calculated risks, and see those setbacks as valuable feedback.
It's about having that resilient mindset, understanding that success is rarely a straight line.
He encourages viewing your career as a series of experiments, being open to new things, willing to pivot when necessary.
That adaptability is key in today's world.
It is. And, he recognizes that everyone's path to wealth creation is unique. There's no one-size-fits-all formula.
Right. It's about taking those principles and adapting them to your own circumstances, discovering what works best for you.
Exactly. It's about understanding those underlying principles, developing the right mindset, and then applying those principles in a way that aligns with your own values, goals, and strengths.
And he emphasizes that true wealth is about more than just, financial success. Health, happiness, strong relationships, those are equally important.
He encourages people to prioritize their well-being, invest in relationships, and seek out activities that bring them joy and meaning.
It's a holistic view of wealth, extending beyond just the material.
Absolutely. And, for those who might be struggling financially, he suggests focusing on building skills, increasing their earning potential, and creating that long-term financial plan.
building that solid foundation.
Exactly. He believes everyone can achieve financial independence, but it takes effort, discipline, and a willingness to learn and adapt.
Patience is key, right?
It is. Viewing it as a marathon, not a sprint.
And seeking mentorship and support along the way.
Absolutely. Connect with people who have already achieved what you aspire to. Learn from their experiences, build those supportive relationships.
You know, one thing that really stood out to me was his emphasis on continuous learning. He believes reading is fundamental, for acquiring knowledge and expanding your understanding of the world.
He encourages reading widely, exploring different subjects, cultivating that love of learning, simply for the sake of learning.
The more you learn, the more opportunities you create.
He keeps you ahead of the curve in this ever-changing world.
But he also believes that the most valuable knowledge often lies outside of, traditional education.
He encourages seeking out mentors, learning from those real-world experiences, embracing experimentation.
Learning can happen anywhere, anytime.
Exactly. Being open to new experiences is essential for growth.
But it's not just about absorbing information, right? It's about developing wisdom.
Which is the ability to apply that knowledge effectively in the real world.
And that comes from experience, making mistakes, reflecting on those mistakes, gaining those insights to inform future decisions.
It's recognizing that learning is ongoing. And true mastery is being able to apply what you've learned to create value for yourself and for others.
It's funny, one of the things that really stuck with me was how he emphasized that building wealth, it isn't just about those external strategies. It's about cultivating inner peace as well. He seemed to really believe that health, strong relationships, a sense of purpose, those are just as important as financial success.
He argued that they're actually the foundation for lasting happiness. Good health gives you the energy to pursue your goals, mental well-being, it gives you clarity and resilience. And strong relationships, well, they offer that support and connection we all need, right?
Oh, absolutely. He acknowledged that those areas can be tough to cultivate.
Yeah.
But ultimately, he sees them as being within our control. It's about making those conscious choices, putting in the effort.
Prioritizing your well-being, investing in your health, nurturing those relationships with the people who matter most.
And he made this point that really resonated with me, He said, building wealth, it isn't selfish if it's done with the intention of making a positive impact on the world.
Yeah, he encouraged people to consider how they can use their resources to make a difference, whether that's through philanthropy, social entrepreneurship, or just living a life that inspires others.
It kind of shifts the perspective, doesn't it? True wealth becomes about more than just personal gain. It's about contributing to something larger than yourself.
And that leads to, I think, a core part of his message. Chasing wealth, it shouldn't be the end goal. It should be a means to a more fulfilling and meaningful life, right?
So it's about defining your own version of success, aligning your goals with your values, creating a life that reflects your passions and your purpose, not just what society expects of you.
He challenged us to break free from those expectations.
Yeah.
Embrace our individuality, create a life that's both personally rewarding and has a positive impact.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Naval's wisdom, here's a question for everyone listening. What are you doing to build wealth in all areas of your life?
What steps can you take starting today to improve your health, to enhance your mental well-being, to strengthen those relationships?
What specific knowledge do you have that you can use to create value, both for yourself and for others?
And how can you productize yourself to increase your impact and achieve that financial freedom he talks about?
His insights offer a pretty compelling roadmap, for a life of purpose and abundance, a life that's personally fulfilling and makes a difference.
It's a journey, that's for sure. It requires effort, discipline, and a willingness to embrace the unknown. But the potential rewards, well, they're definitely worth the investment.
We'd love to hear what resonated with you from this deep dive. Share your thoughts on social media using #TheDeepDive. What are you inspired to explore further? We're looking forward to joining that conversation.
And until next time, keep diving deep and seeking out those nuggets of knowledge, the ones that can change your perspective.